Hello, welcome to another episode of the djproject Criterion Collection. And here we're going to talk about Spine 516, Stagecoach, directed by John Ford, 1939. Okay, bottom line, this is essential viewing. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Now, why? There are three major takeaways that I certainly get from this film, and maybe others will. Call it my three reasons. One, this made the Western into something more. Two, it made a certain actor a big star by the name of Marion Mitchell. I forget it. You all know. Oh, yeah, it's John Wayne. John Wayne is not really John Wayne. Anyways, and then number three, this is the film that taught Orson Welles how to make a film. There's a little bit more to it than that. And what do I mean by making the Western into something more? Well, prior to this, Westerns were viewed as sort of a B-level genre, just, pretty straightforward story, not a whole lot of, it's popular enough to, make a profit, but it doesn't attract A-list celebrities. It doesn't attract a whole lot of high production quality. It's competent filmmaking. This is not a case where you have incompetent filmmaking, but this would be not on the professional level. So usually either these are people who are maybe not as good at certain things, or are just starting out and trying to work their way up at the ladder. But here that changed. That changed in a fairly big way for its time, and it still holds up as being a crucial Western film. Now, this was not the first Western that John Ford had made. In fact, he had made Westerns in the late teens and 20s, but this was certainly his first sound Western. And it was what he was able to infuse with it that made it into something more. And this is one of the reasons why I consider this essential viewing. Is you get both. I mean, you certainly get the conventions, everything that in fact, the story itself is basically a group of strangers who take a horse ride train from one town to the next, and they all have their varying reasons why they go from Tonto to Lordsburg, and they have different stations in life. They have different preoccupations, different hang-ups, and they all have different fates. But you'd think that, oh boy, this is going to be a clusterfuck. No. I wouldn't recommend this as essential viewing if it was. So in a lot of sense, this does a lot of things right. This is an ensemble piece done right, where you have recognizable characters. I mean, yes, you have certain stock Western characters. You have the drunkard, you have the gambler, you even have a greedy banker, which he says a line that is still resonates today. What is good for the bankers is good for the country. And yes, that was deliberate for its time. And my, how times have changed. Anyways, so you have some stock characters in it, but at the same time, it's not played out as stereotypes. In fact, one of the things that makes this film great, and then in John Ford's oeuvre, is you have the chance to empathize with the characters, to understand the characters, and that maybe the differences between them are not as grand as one might seem. So that's what I mean by it doing something. It's beyond just setting out in the West and playing out to American mythology. It's embedded in it with something more, but it doesn't it affirms it by doing it something more. That's probably the best way to succinctly describe it. And yes, this was the film that made John Wayne a star. His intro shot is probably one of the most recognizable shots of cinema, and it would start a very fruitful relationship between John Ford and John Wayne, and not only between those pair of actors, but also in terms of locations. This was the first time that he encountered Monument Valley, and he didn't use it while he would use it more in later films, most famously in The Searchers. This was the beginning of that relationship, and then so finally, how did this film teach Orson Welles to make a film? Well, the famous anecdote is that before he made Citizen Kane, he wanted to learn from the best well-made film at the time, and he chose Stagecoach, and he reportedly ran the film about 40 times to learn everything you could possibly learn about filmmaking. And it's pointed out that John Ford did ceiling shots long before Orson Welles and his cinematographer Greg Toland did. So maybe that was part of the inspiration for that. And not only that, actually, there was another reason why I was especially interested in this film, and particularly getting into John Ford. And that is, this was a director that Akira Kurosawa greatly admired. And actually, as soon as I saw Stagecoach, I could see where Kurosawa learned. I was like, okay, now this makes sense. And then going back to some of his films, I go, okay, there we go. There's the connection right there. So yeah, it's bottom line, this is essential viewing. And again, what do I mean by essential viewing? I mean, these, just like there are certain books that you read to learn about the craft of literature and your cultural heritage. There's certain authors that you read. You read Chaucer, you read Shakespeare, you read Milton, you read Dickens. If you want to go broader, you would read Cervantes, you would read Dostoevsky, you read Tolstoy. Just like there's certain books and there's certain authors that you have to note in order to understand the civilization you're a part of. Likewise, there are certain films that you should see. You learn about the craft of filmmaking. You learn about storytelling at its best, and what you can do, and then from there you can use as a springboard to go into other realms. So if you haven't seen Stagecoach, definitely check it out. And I'll leave you to explore the possibilities. So this is a very quick and dirty recap, but I just want to say, just go see it. Go see it pretty much now, if you can, but see it as soon as possible. But at any rate, Stagecoach. And until next time, take care.